All right. So, some sweet payback. I've actually gotten this a lot on my channel as well. This idea that now in this case it's drag, but I've gotten this for my trans videos. This idea that trans people, or in this case drag queens, are pedophiles. And that people who support them are groomers or child abusers. Well, this GOP lawmaker who falsely accused drag queens of being pedophiles, he now has to pay $200,000. So it's great when their hateful rhetoric has consequences. And this picture that they have of him is basically, it looks like a deer in the headlights look. Like, what? What's happening? What do you mean I have to pay? What do you mean there's consequences to my false accusations? Because, again, hate is the point. They don't think far enough ahead to realize that there might be consequences. They see Donald Trump as being able to say, fuck all, and no consequences whatsoever. So they think, yeah, we think that anybody can do that now. When no, you can't. But anyway, let's get to the article. A Republican state representative in New Hampshire has been ordered to pay two drag queens he defamed $100,000 each and publicly apologize for calling them pedophiles. Which, I don't know how sincere of a public apology that could possibly be if you're being ordered to apologize. That's going to ring very, very hollow. I mean, he might be sorry that he got caught and he has to pay consequences for it, but I just can't see what apology he could come up with. So I don't know why forcing him to make an apology, even if it's public, because nobody's going to believe that he's sincere. Anyway, maybe I'm just jaded, but State Representative David Love, a Republican, oh, the irony of that last name, settled with the drag queens Robert Champion and Michael McMahon after a 2-year court fight following Love's accusations that both men had inappropriate relationships with children. Oh, Lord. So this has been going on for a while. May I suggest that instead of the public apology, how about booting his ass from the State House? Because what the hell are we doing here? He should not be doing the people's work because it's obvious he doesn't care about all the people in his state. As part of the settlement, Love was forced to admit that his claims were completely false. Well, at least he admitted it. I don't think now, whether he actually believes that they were false or he's just doing it because he's being forced to, don't know. But at least something. The plaintiffs filed suit after Love made the accusations in February 2022 while introducing a bill that would mandate library employees and volunteers obtain criminal background checks. Both Champion and McMahon had participated in drag queen story hours. Okay. What the hell? First off, how do you think people get jobs? Do you think that people just say, hey, I could do the library thing. And you don't look into their qualifications or background whatsoever. Same thing with volunteers. You look to make sure that they didn't do anything that they could do again at the library. I don't understand what the hell are you so in this cult of believing that drag queens are bad people, that you can't see that you're actually being completely unreasonable? Because background checks are done, or at least they should be, if for anybody who's looking for a job. That's how jobs work. I don't understand why. Anyway, Love accused Champion, who appeared as Monique Too Soon in a Storytime event in Nashua in 2019, of being a convicted sex offender. Are you kidding me? I'm pretty sure that New Hampshire has this, but in Wisconsin, you can easily go onto the circuit court access and find that shit out. So it would be super easy to find out that you're lying. The lawmaker also accused McMahon as Clara Devine of rubbing butts with children and just really going way too far at another event in Derry in 2021. I'm sorry, does this guy have that kind of a fantasy or something? Seriously, where does he come up with this? What did he see that as McMahon was walking past a child, because crowds are a thing, and accidentally rubbing up against someone because, well, if you're walking past in a crowd, you might touch body parts with someone else, which is not the same thing as, intentionally doing that. So either this guy has a great imagination, and I have no idea where he even began to think that Champion was a convicted sex offender. I mean, seriously, where does he come up with this? Unless, again, he is so deep in the MAGA hole that he can't even, he just assumes this because he's so convinced that this is what drag queens are. I don't know. Love repeated the false accusations over the objections of Champion and McMahon, local officials and community members who challenged him over the spurious claims. Well, I'm glad that most people were telling him he's full of it, but last week, Champion and McMahon secured the $200,000 settlement and a public retraction from Love, the Manchester Inc. link reported. Love shared his apology on social media. All right, this should be fun, because here's the apology. After being provided with inaccurate information that I failed to verify because you didn't want to, I publicly accused Robert Champion, aka Monique Too Soon, of being a registered sex offender, and Michael McMahon, aka Clara Devine, of rubbing butts with children. The state rep posted in his retraction. I have since learned that those accusations were completely false. Okay. Kind of ironic that he tried to pass a bill mandating that library employees and volunteers undergo a background check, and he couldn't be bothered to do a freaking background check on what he's been told. The irony is so delicious. Now, whether it's true that somebody else told him this and he just ran with it, because again, he already has this idea in what he calls his brain, that that's what drag queens do, or if it's true. If it's true, if he just thought that. Because he's just trying to save some face. Not a lot, but some. I wish to publicly retract those statements and apologize to Robert and Michael. I have agreed to monetary judgment against me for $100,000 for Robert and Michael each. Following the settlement, Champion told the Washington Post, when you say things that are that damaging or harmful about someone, they're not going to just sit there and let it happen. No shit. And I hope that if it's true that you didn't properly vet the information you were given, you start doing that. Or better yet, if you get something in that pea-sized brain of yours, maybe, I don't know, before opening your full mouth and costing you money, maybe you should, either make sure it happened, make sure it's not just some fantasy of yours, or, just keep your full mouth shut. Who knows what will happen with the political climate with drag queens right now, Champion said. Yeah, the climate kind of sucks, which is probably why this douche nozzle had no problem believing that this is true. Because it started about 2 years ago where people went out of their minds about drag queens because, I don't know, these men who have very fragile masculinity can't handle the fact that there are men who dress like women for entertainment. I honestly do not know what is this obsession with drag queens. I really do not. McMahon told NBC Boston, I don't want people to look at something online about me that's untrue and believe it, then not cast me for further story times or the children's activity stuff, because I really like to educate the younger generation on what drag is. Exactly. He's doing a good thing. I mean, from what I've heard, most drag queens prefer the adult entertainment kind. But there are drag queens who want to teach kids. And they should not have this over their heads because some asshat, either at the best, couldn't be bothered to verify the information he was given. And at worst, came up with this idea on his own because this was in a climate when people questioned drag queens because reasons. I still do not understand how this came about that people have a problem with drag queens. Did they see that most drag queens do adult entertainment and assume that that's what's happening with kids, as opposed to, sort of like Trump can't figure out that biracial is a thing? People can't figure out that you can do adult entertainment on one night and do family-friendly stuff the next? Snoop Dogg would like a word, because most of his stuff wouldn't recommend for kids. But he does have a children's album. Why? Because he knows the difference between entertaining adults and entertaining kids. All right. I just want this to stand as a message for other people to not do this sort of thing, to not lie. Exactly. And that's all Republicans seem to have right now, because instead of coming up with, I don't know, policies that will benefit people, that people find popular, no, let's just lie about people and scare people about innocent people because reasons. Champion and McMahon's win follows other successful defamation lawsuits addressing drag queens accused of sex crimes against children. Good. It's good that they're going against these idiots. I mean, come on. These are the same people who deride cancel culture. What the fuck do you think this is? Jesus Christ. In May, a jury awarded Idaho drag performer Eric Posey more than $1.1 million in damages after a right-wing influencer falsely accused him of flashing his genitalia at children. In January, a judge in the UK ordered a conservative commentator to pay Drag Race UK queen Colin Seymour, aka Crystal, $200,000 after falsely calling him a pedophile. Love's library bill in the New Hampshire House failed to leave committee and was unanimously deemed inexpedient to legislate, according to state records. Because, again, background checks are a part of getting a freaking job. That's why you have references. That's why you put in your work history. That's why you have a freaking resume and a cover letter and references. Because that way they can do their due diligence to find out, if you did anything that would raise a red flag. And now in the age of the internet, you can just type in the name and find shit out. Unfortunately, if you share a name with someone who did bad shit, then you have to explain that, no, that's a different person by that name. Or in this case, you will come up with these false stories of being a sex offender when you did no such thing. That you're only guilty of being a drag queen and having people hate drag queens because, again, fragile masculinity. I honestly have no clue why this obsession with drag queens. It's just so bizarre. Okay, they're men in dresses reading to kids. Seriously, what do you think is happening? Those kids do not think that these are women. They know that they are drag queens. And depending on how old these kids are, they probably know more about drag queens than you do. So, I don't know what you think is happening. You think the kids are being tricked? I just don't understand. What is this obsession with drag queens and pedophilia and drag queen story time? It's, again, not like they're doing their adult shows during drag queen story time. Even if these drag queens were doing adult level content, they're not doing it for the kids. They know the difference. Unlike you morons who can't seem to understand that people can do one type of content for one audience and another for another audience. Think of it this way. For you who are politicians, think of it this way. When you're talking to an environmental group, you're going to lie and say you're going to do shit for the environment. When you talk to a fossil fuel company, you're going to say, oh, no, don't worry about that. We're going to let you drill, baby, drill. That is the same fucking thing. Only in one case, you're lying, and in the other case, they're just doing different types of entertainment, but they're still entertainers. I just do not understand how this is so hard for people. And that's assuming that, again, that these drag queens also do adult content. Not all of them do. Some of them probably do adult content. But just because they can change how they do their act does not mean that just because they do one act doesn't mean they can't change it for something else. It is just so bizarre to me. I just do not understand how people can go after drag queens. I could think of so many other people they can go after than drag queens. Drag queens don't even make the list. Anyway, that is the end of that article. So, I believe that is also the end of this video. So with that, I will see you guys in the next one.